Welcome back. This is the Intelligent Developers Podcast, led by Andre Bueno and Gerard Delane. We are joined by an incredible young lady today named Nikki Beasley. Nikki, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic on a Friday morning and maybe afternoon where some folks are, but doing great. Thank you for having me.
Excellent, excellent. Andre, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking. Um, really excited about today's conversation. I'd love if you can kick us off, Gerard.
Excellent, excellent. So, Nikki, for those who don't know, can you tell our guests about the wonderful organization you're running over there on the West Coast?
Sure. So Richmond Neighborhood Housing Services that sits in the Bay Area, very close to the San Francisco Bay Area, was an organization established back in 1981 by local residents addressing the redlining issues of the time. It's transitioned to an affordable housing organization where we provide housing through our rental portfolio to low to moderate income families. We also run a number of programs in the Bay Area, one being our Keys to Equity accessory dwelling unit program that supports Oakland residents to build ADUs focused on Black homeowners. We also run a program called the Emerging Developers Program that supports Black BIPOC developers wanting to get into the industry. We also have a HUD counseling component where we help first-time home buyers get into home ownership. And we also are infield developers ourselves and emerging developers where we are developing by acquiring, rehabbing, and bringing ownership opportunities to the Bay Area. And then we do quite a bit of advocacy on behalf of home ownership, on behalf of housing, and holding banks accountable to their community reinvestment obligations.
Excellent. And in the Emerging Developers Program, aren't you helping them get access to capital to do these deals too?
Yes, we go through a 2.5 month curriculum, and it really is to gain them exposure to all of the aspects of development. One, what development is. Two, how they may find themselves participating in the development field, and then also exposure to the type of capital that they may want to pursue once they identify a project.
And I guess in the short term, what are some, the program's been in existence, what, 3, 4 years now?
Yeah, since October 2021, we launched. We are in the middle of our fifth cohort that ends in the end of this month, end of April. We have 80 alumni who have completed, so getting close to 4 years.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. And what impact would you say you've seen so far in this kind of 3, 4 years in?
Our folks, we just had an event last night. The impact is that I believe that our program has been linear focus in giving folks attention in the areas and where they have the best, have the interest. So just they have been hungry for knowledge. They've been so excited that someone is paying attention and providing them information and access to information and resources. And to hear the stories of either they've taken information and have moved on to their career, or they've been able to gain knowledge to, find their first project, or they're making connections within the network, are getting mentorship through some of our instructors. It's been a phenomenal experience.
That's that's so amazing. I mean, just to get people into the business, to provide, 80 alumni the opportunity to not only connect amongst each other, but also to learn from each other. I think that's so fantastic. And from what I understand, you guys are doing HUD counseling and Keys to Equity as an ADU program. Are those that's pretty much the home ownership life cycle, is it not?
I would say yes. The accessory dwelling units have been a phenomenon for the last couple of years where, advocates have said this is a great way to address the housing need and address the shortage in California. It's quote unquote crisis. So it really gave us an opportunity to explore if this could be a solution to a problem to either address the housing need, to address the affordability need, as well as our program focuses on the homeowner to be able to leverage their equity and property to hopefully generate income and generational wealth and all the things that we hear ownership is supposed to allow you.
Wow, I mean, that sounds completely in line with what we're doing here with, with our guests. Hoping to get people to kind of move across the spectrum from, not being in the industry to understanding how the industry works, to thinking about development, to putting their down payment on their first project, to taking the project down and developing it. And I think it's amazing that you were able to launch this very, very successful program, really in the middle of the pandemic.
That part. And I appreciate you laying it out that way, Andre, because you really, talk through a life cycle of development, from the person who wants to see the built, the person who wants to buy the thing that's been built, to the person who wants to, generate the wealth that real estate is supposed to provide. We really have created that life cycle of wherever a community wants to find themselves in real estate, we want to find a way to get them exposure to it. With the home ownership aspect, California as well as the Bay Area being a high cost market, the reason that we got linear focused in that is, my thought was if you're paying rent in the Bay Area, you really need to look at ownership because some people's rent is a mortgage payment. So, through our HUD counseling and through what we call our Lender Ready program, we've gotten over 250 first-time home buyers into home ownership. And, regardless of what people's housing needs are, we just want to give them the opportunity. If ownership is the thing, then we want to make sure they have access. If they want to be a lifetime renter, that's fine too. But wherever people find their trajectory in housing, we want to make sure that they have the opportunity to leverage what they desire.
I mean, 250 people ending up in a home in California is probably the fastest way to create generational wealth. So that is a very scaled out impact. And to just be a testament to the great work that you've been doing. I remember maybe I think a year and a half ago, my partners and I were looking at a hotel site to convert into permanent supportive housing up in Northern California. And you had not only successfully done a project with the EPA, you also had a lot of relationships with different individuals at the city and at the county. So to be able to just flex your influence in the region, I was very, very proud to see how all this is coming together. So I appreciate you. So Nikki, one of the really interesting things that I've learned really about researching you and the work that you've been doing is how you've not only been able to provide access to 250 people homes, but you're also getting them to start thinking about ADUs. They're actually addressing some of the housing shortage in Oakland. And I mean, you're essentially creating the next generation of emerging developers. Is that right?
That's correct. I was reminded yesterday, we've kind of completed a life cycle of real estate from the home ownership standpoint through our HUD counseling and assisting first-time home buyers getting into homes, then to working with existing homeowners who want to leverage their land and build accessory dwelling units, either to add to their housing for generational housing or to generate additional income, and then to our developers who have an interest in revitalizing communities without displacement. So it's been a real full circle for us, addressing all of the issues that we see in the Bay Area as it relates to real estate in general.
And there's obviously a history of discriminatory, housing policies that still we see the effects today. How do you believe this work helps kind of reverse some of the damage of those policies?
Yes, Yes, it's been historical bias and discrimination, and it continues to exist just under different names and different tactics. But I think organizations like us that are mission driven, that are led by people of color, that have an invested interest in community and not taking these opportunities as transactions, but really looking at how an organization like ours can impact the people and making sure that the decisions we make, the programs we create are getting to community. I think that is assisting with addressing some of the historic challenges and most importantly, keeping people educated that yes, it may not come up as redlining, but it is something called gentrification. And I'm not sure if you or your audience is following, the challenges that we're having here in California related to insurance. We see that too to be a tactic of bias and discrimination as insurance carriers are making decisions to get out of California and not insure certain type of property. So I think that, our work is keeping our eyes and ears open and on, the pulse of all of the issues that we're most concerned about.
So federal policy, state laws, like these are the things that even led us down this path that led to these multi-generational impacts. So I'm curious, like in your role, are you spending time on doing policy work? Are you in Sacramento trying to change laws and things like that?
Yes, early on in my career, I started with the organization back in 2016. I'm new to the housing field. So early on, our organization, having the history it had, would be asked to sign on to many legislative policy type of bills. And I was just happy to
Mhm.
be asked. So I was signing everything. And I said, you know what? Hold up. Let me take the time to really understand. So our work now, or my work in policy, is one, understanding the policy, because we ran a bill back, and I want to say 2020, 2021, AB 2560, where we were looking to create some innovative financing to acquire rehab and bring homeownership opportunities that were
Mhm.
considered affordable. And through that process, I learned that, the intentions are good, the intent is to get things passed, but oftentimes the um, the what's the word? The execution is not thought of, and then the unintended consequences are not considered. So whenever we sign on to a policy, we hopefully are going through the process. Okay, so really, what is the intention, and are there any unintended consequences? Because what we find from legislators, they're listening to what community is saying, but they're not
Right.
necessarily always the subject matter experts to really know if this bill passed, what will be the positive or negative impact.
Absolutely. We should underline that. Very often, policymakers are listening to their constituents, which is their job, uh, but their constituents aren't necessarily thinking about the next steps. Like, what are the unintended consequences of this thing that I want that may benefit me personally? Um, that's our role. I think, many of us thought leaders, I think our role is to help add context, to add complexity to these conversations so people can understand the full picture of these decisions.
Absolutely. And for those of us that are passionate about the full spectrum of real estate, we have a part to play in every aspect. It's not just about the transaction, it's not just about building, but it's about all the things that impact us to make sure that what we would like to see the vision or what we've heard from community needs to happen. So we really do have to find our way to the tables. We have to
Right.
find a way to be that voice of influence to the legislators and those that are making those decisions.
A statement you said a few moments ago, I've thought about before, that I often think that for me, affordable housing business isn't a job, that I'm passionate about this, that I actually care about the outcome of these things we're doing. And that for some people, it might be like a job. They're just clocking in, you know, that like, all right, maybe this works, maybe it doesn't, but like I'm going to be paid. Um, that I actually care a lot about the outcome of the decisions we're making. What will happen to the people that we are creating this for? What happens to their quality of life? What happens to that young Nikki, that young Andre that lives in this building? How will their life be impacted 10 years from now? Not just can I
Well,
make a dollar this year because of this decision.
well, that's what keeps me motivated. And again, being new to this, I was quite naive. I thought everybody thought the same. And through this social unrest, it became evident to me that in order for what we would like to see in affordable housing happen, there needs to be a shift in power. Because many of the large affordable housing organizations aren't led by people of color. There aren't people who have either a personal relationship to situations,
Right.
nor do they have an attachment to the people that they're building for. It really does become a transaction. It becomes
Right.
where we hear a lot, it doesn't pencil out. Whether it pencils out or not, we still need to find a way to get these people housed. It's
Right.
also a conversation of affordable housing means different things to different people. And it doesn't mean concentrated poverty. It means all levels of income need to be afforded the opportunity to live in safe, comfortable, quality environments. And just because someone looks to be making good money doesn't mean that they are not in need of support and subsidy so that they too can, again, have a high value of living in housing. So I think the voices like ours that are people of color that have a vested personal interest and desire to see these things come to fruition is required for us to either create the spaces where we have the influence to make the changes we want to see, or be put in positions to where there's a shift of power that we can move these type of decisions forward.
Wow, that's just incredibly powerful. I mean, just reflecting on the just interactions we've had over the years. I remember at one point we were trying to buy a hotel to convert from um, day-to-day operations as a hotel into permanent supportive housing, and we were made a couple calls, ended up connecting with you. You made some introductions to different individuals working at the city, at the county, at the state. So to just see how well you've built this machine. I mean, I'm curious, like where does this story go? Like where does this impact um, end up going? Past Oakland.
Well, we support currently Alameda, Contra Costa, and Solano County. I believe my greatest value and benefit to the organization is the power of networking, because I am not a subject matter expert in all aspects of real estate and development, but I've learned it's not what you know, it's who you know. And when people can feel the passion and interest, they don't mind helping and supporting getting things done. My goal is that when I do make the decision to step away from the organization, that I've created a very solid foundation so the new next generation of leaders can take it to the next level. But the mission, vision, and purpose is well instituted to where it's in position just to take it further and to continue to address these very dynamic challenges that we all have throughout the country, because these issues are not going away anytime soon.
And if we were to think about like that next generation that's kind of starting up, I mean, how do they even look at like home ownership as a possibility given how crazy prices are on really on the coast?
I think it's twofold. I think our emerging developers program has been created to, one, give young or new professionals in this industry insight on all the different layers and different pathways and different roles. Because when someone says they want to be a developer, that sounds very sexy, but there are so many caveats to development. So it's, one, getting them exposed to all of the different things that one can do in development. And then two, in the Bay Area explicitly, one of the reasons that we've been so successful in getting people into home ownership when people are paying rent prices that are as high as a mortgage, you can't help but to look at, getting into home ownership. So I think that's really what our messaging has been. If your rent payment resembles a mortgage payment, you have to at least consider it. And we do know that for those that are successful to get into home ownership and able to leverage equity in the way in which it's determined to be, then it allows that entrepreneur to take the cash, start their business, or do all the other things that we hear people do with, leveraging a real estate asset.
You know, you're providing a master class for executive directors of nonprofits out there. Um, Not only how to run the organization now, but how to set the organization up for the future. Um, which I think is the aspiration of every leader, right? That this thing is going to be even better when I pass the ball. They're going to say, wow, that last person did such a great foundation, and that the things they wanted, the things they put in place really took off.
Well, I would say it's the role for those in the audience and those that may be listening that are leading organizations, nonprofits, or even companies. We have to do a better job of doing this work gracefully. So people are like, yeah, I want to do that. Or versus, I don't, that's a lot of work. I have no interest. But at the same time, and I've been having conversations with our philanthropy partners, this is now the time to figure out how to get self-care part of our strategy, and it's not just a hashtag or a tagline, because our leaders are dying, they're unhealthy, and when they do step away, they don't have the longevity to have a quality of life. So there does need to be an intersection of, yes, creating the structural organization infrastructure of an organization, but also having that grace period so that a leader can transition well versus there being a reactive situation where this has just happened in the Bay Area. A very profound leader passed away. So now it becomes reactive. Like, what do we do? Or when leaders like me say, yeah, I'm getting close to feeling as though I've given all that I can give, what is the pathway that I can gracefully step away so that someone can take on the next step? Or for the young leaders that are coming up, sees this work as valuable and stays motivated to want to take it on when someone steps.
So, our last question for you, um, what would you say to that young 21-year-old Nikki who's looking to aspire to lead an organization one day? What advice would you give her today?
um get to know people, get out of the comfort zone. The 21-year-old Nikki today has probably been invested in social media, and so probably hasn't had the skills to work on those interpersonal interactions of actually meeting people. And it also was impacted by not having to have that due to COVID, but figuring out how to get out of that bubble and getting to know people that are in the industry. I'm starting to do those informational interviews to make sure that what I, as a young person, I am thinking I want to do, really talk to the person doing it to understand if that's something I want to invest my time in. And not sure where the balance is because, work environment, work ethic, work commitment has shifted and changed. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but understanding as a new leader, what does that investment of time mean? How do I manage my expectation that no, it's not going to happen tomorrow? And surrounding myself around people that I know have my interest at heart, and that there's no hidden agenda, and that I can learn from individuals and understand and be graceful. Keep saying graceful, so I guess that's the word of the day. But being humble to know that I don't know everything, and it's going to take me some time to learn and be patient through the process.
Excellent. We are going to end at that. Nikki, this is truly, truly special. We really appreciate you coming out to talk to us today.
Well,
Thank you so
thank
much.
you, and I appreciate the invitation, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Till next time.
Till next time.